Howdy doody, ladies and gentlemen, you sons of bitches. I'm back with 5 more things I got up to lately. And you might be noticing this looks like the same jersey I wore last time, but it is not. I had the same number in grade 10 and 11. This is my grade 11 jersey. And the one way to tell is the material, the blue is different a little bit, but you can't tell from here. But on the armbands, basically, it used to say just Oaks, but now it's got the picture of the football helmet and stuff with the Oaks. So it is a little bit different, but same number. I was a big fan of 33, and that was one of my more desired numbers that I got those 2 seasons, which was great. Enough about that. Let's get into what we got for you today. This one was mostly TV series, actually, with a couple of video games. So a little different than usual. Usually it's a mix of books and games and movies and stuff. But yeah, this round is a little bit different. Different is good. Variety is the spice of life, they say. Anyways, first up, Season 1 of Star Wars, The Bad Batch. This was probably one of the shows I was... I don't want to say that I wasn't looking forward to watching it, but of all the shows they've had coming out, it was probably one of the ones on the lesser end that I was looking forward to compared to other ones. But after watching it, I loved it. It follows, it picks off like right around the time of Order 66 when it got executed, and it follows a group of clones called Clone Force 99 or something like that, otherwise known as the Bad Batch. They had some anomalies that made them not react the same way as most of the other clones. When Order 66 was ordered by the Emperor, they all automatically followed their pre-programmed orders and turned on the Jedi, but this little group did not. Now, the Bad Batch consists of 5 clones. There's Hunter, who's kind of the leader, Wrecker, Echo, Tech, and Crosshairs. Now, Crosshairs ended up splitting from the group and sided with the new Empire and was kind of obsessed with bringing his brothers to justice for what he considers are their crimes. So basically, it shows how these clones kind of escaped Order 66 and kind of went on the run and ended up becoming sort of not quite mercenaries, but kind of hired muscle for different people, just to kind of stay afloat and survive in the galaxy that has vastly changed since Order 66. And of course, they're being hunted down by the Empire as enemies of the Empire. So we across the season, there's 16 episodes, and this was originally released in 2021. That's when the series originated. And we see some characters come up across these 16 episodes that we know from other Star Wars media outlets. There's Saw Gerrera shows up, Bib Fortuna, Jabba the Hutt's major domo, he shows up. A young Hera Syndulla, leader of the Phoenix Squadron in the Star Wars Rebels show, she shows up when she's a bit younger and is friends with Omega, and it kind of shows how she kind of got the bug for being a rebel and taking on the Empire. And I mentioned Omega. I forgot to tell you about Omega. So the Bad Batch hooks up with a young female clone of Jango Fett, totally unaltered clone, and her name is Omega. And what is valuable about her is she's the only unaltered clone of Jango Fett left, so her DNA is very valuable. All the other clones have, had that accelerated aging and all the other stuff that they had. So she's the only unaltered clone left, and she ends up latching on with the Bad Batch and becomes part of the team. Now, there's some people chasing her down. One of them is Fennec Shand, a bounty hunter / mercenary who showed up in the Boba Fett TV show, and also Cad Bane, who we have seen in the Clone Wars TV show and all sorts of stuff after that. So we see all sorts of characters pop up along the way that we've seen in other Star Wars outlets. So they mix in a lot of these characters, plus some new characters as well as this kind of series unfurls. Now, it got really interesting near the end, especially because we all know that the Empire stopped using clones at some point, right? And just started enlisting normal men and women from across the galaxy. But we don't know when, how, why that all happened. So the last couple episodes, or maybe the last few episodes of this opening season, now spoiler alert if you don't want to hear any of this, most of what I have to say is spoiler alerts for the first few entries here in this video. Um, they end up going back to Camino for the last few episodes, and the Empire ends up. I think they keep on one of the Kaminoan scientists, not Lama Su, the president. God, I forget her name, but they end up keeping her on for her expertise. But otherwise, they're like, Camino, let's eradicate it. We don't need any more clones. It's going down. So the last few episodes is kind of like the Bad Batch showing up on Camino and eventually having to escape it as they retrieve. I forget what they were doing there. If they were trying to rescue Omega or going after Crosshair or something like that. But they're on Camino for a reason, and in the end, the Empire ends up bombarding it from space with their Star Destroyers and stuff, and just raise the cloning facility on Camino and send it into the ocean. So we see the kind of the death of Camino and the end of the cloning program as the Bad Batch kind of escape from the facility with their lives, and that's what caps off the end of season 1. So awesome series. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more with each episode, and I have a feeling that it's going to answer more questions along the way, because I think right now the 3rd season is just finished airing on Disney Plus. So obviously I'll have to get these on DVD eventually, but yeah, I can't wait to see where they go in seasons 2 and 3. So that is our first thing. Next up is the Power Rangers Ninja Storm series. This series first aired in 2003, contains 38 episodes, and overall it is like the 10th Power Rangers series. So and I'm not going by season, because the original Power Rangers, you know, Kimberly in the pink, those Power Rangers went for, I think, 3 seasons to start off the whole run of Power Rangers, and then each season after that was a different Power Rangers team sort of thing. So this is the 10th individual Power Rangers series, different type of team sort of thing that we see in this long-lasting franchise. So the story behind Ninja Storm is there is a ninja wind academy that trains all these ninjas to become doers of good and all that sort of thing, and it's led by Sensei Watanabe. Now, Sensei Watanabe has a brother named Lothar who has been banished. He's a Jedi master, a ninja master as well, but he was evil, so he's kind of been banished, and he wants to take it out on his brother in the Wind Academy. So he ends up attacking the Ninja Wind Academy and kidnaps all the ninjas except for 3, and ends up turning Sensei Watanabe into, guess what? Yes, you guessed it, a guinea pig. A guinea pig. So we have a guinea pig sensei in this series for the most part. So the 3 students from the Ninja Wind Academy were Shane, Tori, and Justin, and they ended up surviving. They were probably 3 of the lower class. They're kind of bumbling and whatever, and we're always in trouble and sort of thing. But they end up becoming the last 3 survivors of this attack, and so Sensei Watanabe also has a son named Cam. So the 3 ninjas, Cam and the sensei, all kind of retreat down to ninja ops under the ground to recover and regroup, and they end up getting the wind ninja morphers, so they end up becoming Power Rangers, and of course have the power of the Zords they can use against Lothar, who after this initial attack of course starts sending his monsters after these remaining people that he's after. So he also has 2 Power Rangers under his thrall, Thunder Rangers. Their names are Blake and Hunter. And he has lied to them and said that the Wind, Sensei Watanabe and whatever, and the Wind Rangers are responsible for their parents' death. So they end up opposing the Ninja Storm Power Rangers until the truth is revealed, and then they end up joining the team. So that we kind of only had a team of 3 Power Rangers to start with those 3 Wind Ninjas, and then Blake and Hunter join as the 2 Thunder Rangers, and that encompasses the team of 5, which is what the Power Rangers usually come in as a team of 5. Sometimes they have a 6th. kind of individual ranger, and in this one they do too. Cam ends up becoming the Green Ranger, so they actually technically have 6 Power Rangers on this team. So, and again, it follows the typical Power Rangers format. So the rest of the series, it's the Ninja Storm Power Rangers against Lothar and his forces, and there's just all these different schemes Lothar throws at them, and of course they have to foil him before taking him down in the end. And Lothar has 2 nieces that provide kind of the comic relief. Their names are Mara and oh shit, I forget the other one's name. I kind of want to remember it now just to see if I can, but I don't think it's going to happen. But anyways, they're really cute and they're really funny, and they provide kind of the comic relief on the enemy side of things. And yeah, standard format. And usually with each with each Power Ranger season, there's a cameo from past Rangers. So this season featured the same thing. So some people from the previous series of Power Rangers, which was Wild Force, show up in a couple episodes of this one to help out with a scheme and whatever. And so remember Princess Shayla, so we get some Rangers show up, Princess Shayla, and then some of the old enemies, Jindrax and Toxica, I think, also show up. So yeah, so it follows, it's a typical Power Rangers season, just with some minor differences with the 2 different Rangers joining the other 3. So they do throw in some monkey wrenches here and there, but it's funny. I find with Power Rangers, like, I'll watch a season and like after I watched Power Rangers Turbo, I was like, oh fuck, I love Power Rangers Turbo. I love the characters they had. And then I start watching the series after that, and I'm like, oh, this isn't as good as Turbo. Like, I miss the old guys. But then as the season goes on, I'm like, this is awesome. This is my new favorite, right? With each one, right? So I really enjoyed this one just as much as I have the other ones. You just can't go wrong with the music, the action, the cheesy acting, the hilarity. Power Rangers is just a winning formula all around. Next up, first season of Star Wars Tales of the Jedi. Now, when I bought this, I wasn't sure exactly what it was, and it ended up being a lot shorter than I thought. It's kind of a season of episodes that are just kind of random. There's only 6 episodes in total, and they're short episodes, so I think they last probably between 10 to 15 minutes or something like that. And they follow 2, oops, my slipper. They follow 2 particular characters in a few different adventures they have. Ahsoka Tano, Anakin's Padawan and future rebel and all that, and Count Dooku. So for us, and it follows some of their earlier adventures as well as stuff that happens once we kind of get to the point of where we knew them in the timeline, and some stuff behind the scenes that we may not have known. So for Ahsoka, her 3 episodes are like, first one happens when she's just a baby, and a really crazy adventure happens to her where it's first revealed that she has Jedi powers, she has the Force. And then the next one is when she's training as a Padawan with Anakin, how she really, an exercise she does to really sharpen her skills and become a full-fledged kind of Jedi Knight sort of thing. And then the last one was the most interesting one to me. It's after Order 66 has happened. It's all the Jedi are either dead or in hiding, and she ends up going to Naboo to, from the shadows, witness Padme's funeral, which was one of the very last scenes of Revenge of the Sith, right? So Bail Organa ends up seeing her and chases her down. He's like, you can't be here, like the Empire's everywhere, you got to get out of here. And he's like, if you ever want any help, if you ever want to join our cause, here's a communicator, all you have to do is call me. But she's like, no, this isn't my fight, I'm out of here, whatever. So then she ends up going into hiding on some planet where I think they're farming and stuff like that, but she ends up using the Force to save somebody from an accident during their work. And it gets out that she's a Jedi, and one little weasel guy calls the Empire on her, and death comes, of course. That always follows the Empire's arrival. And it finally emboldens her to say, yeah, I can't just stay in hiding, I've got to do something. So she contacts Bail Organa to help get the survivors of this attack off the world and into a safe place. And she's like, I'm ready to join your cause. So that's the start of, like, remember in Star Wars Rebels, the TV show, Fulcrum, I think that was her code name. Hera and the Rebels end up getting this mysterious informant, kind of helping them out, but they don't quite trust her. And then they end up finally meeting with her, and it's Ahsoka in her rebel kind of phase. So this kind of shows the inspiration behind her turn to joining the rebellion and helping out. As for Count Dooku, his first couple episodes are when he was still a Jedi. Him and Qui-Gon, who was his apprentice, they go on 2 different missions. One's to rescue a kidnapped senator's son on some planet, and the other one is to investigate the death of a Jedi on some planet that this Jedi was stationed there to help, I don't know, keep the peace or be a diplomat, whatever. But she ends up getting murdered, and they go there to investigate to investigate her death. And throughout these first 2 episodes with Dooku and Qui-Gon, you can easily see his dark side leanings and the way he doesn't tolerate fools and injustice and that sort of thing. But he's not the calm, serene Jedi that he should be. He's just like, blah! He wants to deal with it the way probably most people would, right? With extreme violence. So, so those first 2 episodes are interesting, but it's the last one again that really grabbed me. So he's already converted to the dark side. He's Emperor Palpatine. Well, sorry, Chancellor Palpatine's kind of, I don't know if he's his apprentice or his co-worker, whatever you want to call him. And it first shows Dooku going into the Jedi archives and using Sifo Dyas's credentials to wipe all record of the planet Kamino from the archives. So that's how that happened, because we all know in the movie when Obi-Wan can't find Kamino and he goes to Yoda and the younglings and they help him think about it and piece together where this mysterious missing planet is. So we see how that happens. And then we see Dooku leave from there to go meet up with Palpatine in that industrial district where Palpatine would always hide when he was doing his Sith business. And but Yaddle, who was a Jedi Council member, she was the one that looks just like Yoda, but a female version. She ends up being suspicious of Dooku or something, and she ends up following him. And she confronts Palpatine and Dooku, and of course pays for it with her life. So that was a really interesting episode to kind of see kind of how the wiping of the planet Kamino was awesome. I knew I was going to love that episode as soon as I saw that. I was like, yes. And then to see Yaddle get featured, right? Because you just see her a little bit in a couple of the movies, you know, on the council, and I think she has maybe minor speaking lines, but to see her involved, you know, they're kind of fleshing out more characters with these TV shows and stuff. And I believe that was released in 2022, that TV show. So that's the end of the TV series. Next up, we have a couple of video games. One of these games, the first one I'm going to mention, you may have followed along with on my gameplay footage. And it was originally released in 2010, I think just for the Xbox, before years later it got remastered and released on, I think, most if not all systems, sort of thing. So, and the game in question, which I played on the PS4 as one of my PS Plus free monthly games, is Alan Wake. Now, Alan Wake is the, of course, titular character of the game, and he's who you play with through the game. He is an author, kind of like a Stephen King type of author, who has many best-selling books, but for the last couple of years, he's been going through some major writer's block. So his wife, Alice, has booked a kind of a long stay in this small town in Washington State called Bright Falls. It's very small town. It's got a diner still, you know, it's got a lake, it's got mountains, it's very rustic. And and it was kind of at the advice of Alan's agent Barry, who's also kind of one of his best friends. And Alan doesn't really realize this is the purpose they're going there. And when Alice reveals that to him, when they get to Bright Falls, he kind of gets pissed off, and it causes some tension. And but they move past it, and they're like, okay, they get to Bright Falls. They're like, we got to go to the diner to pick up the keys from this guy to our cabin, whatever. So they go there. The guy's not there. There's this mysterious old woman who gives him the keys and is very off-putting, let's say. And before this even happened, he was having visions of these shadow people that were attacking him, and this mysterious guy in this old-timey big steel diving suit, and he didn't really realize what it was all about. And when they finally get to the cabin, it's this old cabin on this tiny little island in the middle of Cauldron Lake, which is a volcanic kind of lake. And as soon as they get there, they keep arguing about the whole thing, but they're trying to work it out. And Alan kind of gets pissed off, and he storms out of the cabin. And as soon as he leaves, Alice starts screaming because the power went out or whatever, and she's afraid of the dark. When he gets back, he can't find her. He finally comes back out of the cabin, and he sees her fall into the lake, and dives in after her, but he can't get to her, and he sees somebody kind of dragging her under the waves, and it's this mysterious old woman. So something is amiss. And as the game moves on, it gets weirder and weirder, and it's almost like this story that's unfolding in front of him with his missing wife, who is presumed drowned by the authorities and everything, is a story that he has written, but he doesn't know he's written it. So he's having to piece together these events and kind of work against his own self in order to figure it out. And he gets help along the way from his agent Barry, from the guy in the diving suit who's this mysterious kind of otherworldly presence kind of thing. It's a really weird story, but it's really, really cool. And as you move through the game, these shadowy figures that he saw in his visions before he went to Bright Falls, they attack you all the time, and the only way to defeat them is to kind of shower them with light. So you've always got a flashlight and stuff, and you need to kind of break their shield with the light before you can kind of shoot them and destroy them. And but what's different about this game is that Alan Wake is just like an author from New York City. He's not an action hero or whatever. So like you're trying to sprint with him, and he just gets tired, and he's kind of pathetic in a way. And so the combat sequences are very difficult at times. And I raged during a lot of these points of the game when you get kind of overwhelmed by these shadow men. And yeah, it was quite an experience. So there's five or six episodes of the main story, I think 5, and then there's 2 bonus episodes that kind of pick up after the story and link everything back together and finish the whole thing off. And they take probably anywhere between an hour and a half to 3 hours per episode to play, so it's fairly lengthy in the end when you consider there's 7 total episodes, right? Really fun game, some really neat aspects to it, especially when like the shadow people take over, like they possess vehicles and stuff. Like at one point you got to take out a big like combine farm harvester sort of thing, right? Like, so there's some really cool elements of it, and there's a lot of exploring too of some interesting facilities like inside of a dam and stuff. So it's a really neat game. It probably isn't for everybody just because it is so I don't know, it's unique. You can't really explain. I can't really explain it properly. It's just different. It's kind of unlike any game I've ever really played in terms of the story and how you fight and everything. So if you if you are interested in it, you should probably just watch the first episode and see, if you think you'd like it. But yeah, I had a ball playing it, even though I raged. If you watch my gameplay videos, I raged. But that's just what happens when you're frustrated, right? I still love the game no matter what, and there is a sequel to it, so that is something to consider as well. So, Alan Wake, great, unique, fantastic game. Now, the 5th item is another game, another download, and when this was announced, I was super excited because arguably this is my favorite franchise of all time. There's a couple that kind of vie for that title, but it's in the mix anyways. This is a Konami franchise that was originated back on the NES back in the late 80s. And it's just, they've kept at it over the years. And it's just one of my, like I said, one of my favorite game franchises ever. So when I saw this announced as a new game, it was an automatic pre-order. So, and I was just waiting for the day so it would finish downloading and I could get at it. So without further ado, the game in question, which I downloaded on my Switch, so there's no gameplay footage, I'm sorry, but it is Contra, Operation Galuga. Operation Galuga is kind of a reimagining of the original Contra game, with a more modern look to the characters, although it's still more of an older looking game, just kind of with new polish on it, sort of thing. It's not a total redo from the first game. Like, it's not level by level, it's exactly the same, just looks new and different. It's the levels are all different. It's just the theme of it is very much the same. It's kind of like a new way to tell that first story, just a different kind of story, sort of thing. So the story behind it is that there's this the Galuga archipelago. Is that how you say that? Yeah. Which is kind of off the coast of New Zealand. It suffers a meteor storm in the year 2600 something, and 6 months later, Red Falcon, who are the enemy in the Contra games, invade the archipelago and are looking for something. So there's all these weird readings coming from the island. So the Earth forces or whatever send in their GX army, but although they make some headway at first, suddenly contact is lost with them. So the Elite Contra unit, featuring Bill Reiser and Lance Bean, who are the original two characters from Contra, are called in to go in and see what the hell is going on. So you take control of these two characters and you blaze your way across 8 levels, 8 stages to get to the bottom of what's going on and finish off this threat. So it's very much like the original Contra game, but it's got some added elements from future Contra games that came after that original. Like in the original Contra game, you couldn't slide, but in future Contra games you could, and this game contains that element. So they kept that original game style, but added all the best of future Contra games into this one as well. And one thing they added, which I can't remember if they did this in any of the Contra games, is that you can pick up different types of weapons in the Contra games, and you usually do it by shooting these pods that fly across the screen. And like Spreader is one of our favorite weapons, and the homing gun in this one is really good. But usually you pick up the weapon, you use it. If you get hit and die, you lose it. But in this one, you can pick up, say, a Spreader, and if you find another Spreader, you pick it up, and that Spreader levels up to a second level where it becomes more powerful, and you can do that with all the weapons in this game. So that was another cool feature that I didn't know if it was in the Contra franchise before, but they have it in this game, and it's really cool. But yeah, basically the whole theme and gameplay style behind it is the exact same as the original Contra games, and we had a ball playing it. And they have 3 different modes. They have the story mode, which you can play with 2 players or just yourself, and then they have arcade mode, which is basically exactly the same, except you can play with up to 4 players. And then they have a challenge mode, which just gives you different challenges within the game levels you've already played, like defeating a boss in a certain amount of time or something like that, or with just one man. I can't remember. Speed running some levels, mastering a weapon and defeating a segment with a certain type of weapon, that sort of thing. So I played a lot of those. I got about maybe half of them done. But yeah, it was the pre-sale price was like around $50. It's worth $50 to me because it's Contra, but the game was fairly short. Even though it was amazing, it was fairly short. So I don't know if it's worth $50 to somebody who doesn't know and love the Contra franchise as much as like me and my buddy Simon do. But definitely, if you find this game for a price you're willing to pay for it, you will not be disappointed. It's so much fun. It's a modern telling of something retro, and it works. It works. I've never played a bad Contra game, just like I've never eaten bad pizza or had bad sex. Now I just have no sex. Anyways, I'll leave you on that note. Bye. Meow.